Ranting, reflecting, reasoning, reckoning.
The Huddle, with corporate cars delivering unbeatable prices on luxury European vehicles.
NewstalkZB, it is now 20 to 6. It's Monday, so we have Josie Pagani back with us. Hello, Josie.
Hi, Larry.
And along with Josie, Cameron Slater from Whale Oil. Hello, Cam.
Hey, Larry.
Josie, I'll let you have a go at the Labour Party conference first. Just an observation. I think there's a lot of trivial matters in there, actually. Nothing in the way of substantive policy. I don't know whether it was meant to come out of that conference, but a gender quota, insurance scheme, placing people in red zone properties. Trivial stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually the Kiwi insurance one is something that will get some traction, Larry. I mean, it's not, that's quite. I remember when I was involved in the Kiwi Bank rollout, and everybody made people like I know Cam's about to attack me now, but the National Party, the whole banking industry waded into that and said, "Oh, it's a return to the Polish shipyards of the 1970s." Well, Kiwi Bank's been a resounding success, so I think the Kiwi insurance, doing for insurance companies what we did for the banking sector, that's something that does have traction. I think that's popular with your average Kiwi voter. Now, the other stuff, well, that's a distraction, isn't it?
Yeah, right. I think stuff like Kiwi Assure, Cam is barking. I think it's economic nationalism. You look at AMI, how much did the government have to bail that out? Was it 500 million?
I think actually that this policy is mendacious, and for the more simple listeners that are listening, it's actually a lie. David Cunliffe claims that it's going to reduce premiums through competition. I don't believe that for 1 minute. We have plenty of competition in the insurance market in New Zealand, and the cut rate premium operators that have operated before went bust as soon as we had a big event. His claims don't stack up either, because the only way that an retail insurance operation like being proposed, bizarrely operating out of all of these little rinky-dink stores where you have to queue up for ages with the indigent and the useless who are just simply withdrawing their dole payments, is not exactly going to cut it with middle New Zealand. But on top of that, they're going to have to go into the international reinsurance market along with everybody else and pay the same price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so I really don't know how they're going to lower premiums. Yes, the insurance industry, like the banks, are going to come out and moan, but quietly they'll be sniggering to themselves behind their hands, because all this is going to do is take their low-value customers, the people that they don't actually make any money off, and send them off to for the taxpayer to put up.
Your response, Josie? Sorry, final point, Cam.
The final point with that is that Cunliffe isn't even promising to have this government guaranteed, in which case it's a hollow promise in the first place.
Right, so let's just have a look at AMI for a moment. So AMI, the government nearly had to bail it out anyway because you couldn't afford to let it fail. You couldn't afford to let all those claimants just fall over after the earthquake. So we might as well have got the profits from AMI. It might as well have been a government-owned insurance company like the Kiwi Assure model, because we were going to have to bail it out anyway. So,
but the thing, Josie, is that the taxpayer has to take... If you're going to lower premiums, if you think you're going to lower premiums, well, let's see that one for starters. But the taxpayer then has to take on that risk. And that doesn't matter who the company is. They still have to reinsure overseas anyway. It's called spreading your risk.
Yeah, but let me just answer that, because we were taking the risk anyway, Larry. That's my point, is that we couldn't afford to let AMI fall over. In the end, it sorted itself out anyway. But the government almost had to bail it out anyway. So we were taking that.
Okay.
And the second thing is... let me just answer that, Cam, because the second thing is, if you look at Kiwi Bank, everybody said, we'll have no effect on banking fees at all. It absolutely did. And it had an effect. It lowered fees, and we had more branches.
It has not. So
well,
it lowered fees. It didn't lower interest rates. It is a facetious claim by an opportunist Labour Party that wants to use a massive civil emergency for political gain.
All right, we'll take a break. I would point out that the great majority of New Zealanders actually don't bank at Kiwi Bank. They bank at other banks. But we'll come back in just a moment. It's now 16 to 6.
Larry Williams Drive with the new ANZ, the bank that gives you more.
Back on the Huddle with Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater. Issue number 2, Cameron, to you. This page set up by a group of teenage boys boasting about, bragging about their sexual experiences with underage girls. What do you see in this?
Well, they're creepy little toe rags, aren't they? And they desperately need a right good flogging by some vigilante justice.
They're horrible. It's just... Look, Larry, I was looking at this and trying to work out because it's partly the challenge of online stuff, isn't it? And what you do about information you get via Facebook or another online mechanism. So I was looking at some case studies here. I don't understand that if they've named the girls that they have raped. So if they've named them, I thought that was an offence in itself. I guess the girls would have had to have made a complaint of rape
That's right.
first. But
that's the problem.
yeah.
Bragging about something is not evidence.
No.
That's the issue
here. It would
here.
appear to be the case, although too often when people run off to the media or to the police and lay vexatious complaints. I feel sorry for the police in some respects, but this looks like an ongoing campaign by these ratbags for more than 2 years. Someone needs to take control of the situation. If they're teenagers themselves, I'm not even sure of what the ages of them are, but I would have thought some parental responsibility, or at least holding the parents responsible for some of their behaviour, would be in short order.
No, I agree with that. And there's another interesting case here which is really disturbing. I mean, there's a lot of suicides, Facebook suicides they're calling them. I mean, this one particular girl in Italy who, there were pictures of her posted by her ex-boyfriend of her drunk at a party, and she ends up committing suicide. So the family now are suing Facebook for not removing the offensive content because apparently her sister complained to Facebook and said, "Can you get rid of these horrible things?"
Well,
and they did nothing.
You've got the case of Charlotte Dawson again in the media today, and you've got this little toe rag who's got plastered all over his Twitter account that he supports the ALP. And he's sitting there saying, well, why don't you just do it properly and kill yourself properly and stop whinging? And it's just appalling sort of behaviour.
Well, it's
worse, isn't it, this issue?
Deranged, animalistic behaviour. Anyway,
those sorts of comments. Every time I write a post about depression or something like that on my blog, I get some deranged lefty who sends me nasty emails and saying, well, why don't you just off yourself?
And I've had death threats on
Well,
a
I've helped
website.
you out with that, haven't I?
Yeah, and I actually went to the police and said, well, what can I do about it? And they said, well, it's not an offence and until there is a very real risk of you being targeted.
quick word on the drink drive limit. It'll come back, well, it stays at 80, but between 51 and 80 you get a fine.
Well, I think that's a happy medium. There's still not a lot of evidence. I mean, I think what the numbers that Jerry Brownlee released today says we might be able to save 3.4 people and $200 million, but we really still don't have enough data. And I think that you've got to pass law changes and policy changes on hard data, and I think this is a happy medium until we can gather that information, get that information together. For me, it's no effect on me. I don't drink, and I certainly don't drink and drive, and I don't actually care. So
well, you'll care if somebody hits you, Cam, but anyway.
Well, that's true.
Josie, I think the data's, I don't think we need any more data. I think it's the soft option, actually.
Yeah. I think it's always a balance between harm mitigation and rights, isn't it? Your right to drive a little bit tipsy versus the harm. And in this case, the harm, even if it is, he quotes, I think, 61 deaths a year due to alcohol, that's enough to make me go, well, we'll take the rights.
Just make it
the harm
zero.
side.
I mean, if alcohol...
make it zero.
Make it zero. At this halfway house, no one's going to be happy with it at the end of the day. But, there's still not a lot of evidence to prove that if you're between 0.5 and 0.8, that you're actually a danger on the road. It may be if you're a slim woman who's had 2 glasses of wine as opposed to a 120-kilo beer-drinking, guzzling, maniac. There's no hard evidence that if you fall in that line that you're actually going to be a killer, until, of course, you hit somebody.
Thank you, and we'll talk next week. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater on the Huddle. Back in a moment with Mark Watson and some sport. It's now 9 to 6.